All right, welcome to the podcast, Joey, bro. For those who may not know who you are, do you want to give a little introduction into, what your Confit is about and yourself?
Yeah, man. My name is Kwon. I'm the founder and CEO of a social enterprise called Confit Fitness, otherwise known as Confit, and also the founder and CEO of a not-for-profit called Confit Pathways. Confit, the business, what we do is we help inmates coming out of the justice system. We help them to become trainers in the fitness industry to give back to society through what they know best. Because a lot of inmates spend a lot of time inside jail training.
A lot of thinking going on. There's a lot of thinking going on.
There's a lot of thinking, but there's a lot of training too.
That's
There's not much to do in there. And the not-for-profit, we get these trainers to also become mentors, and we go back into youth justice centres across New South Wales. So we're in 5 centres out of the 6 across New South Wales to provide mentoring to young people who are facing the similar stuff that we went through when we were young, and giving them a mindset change around having a positive outlook on life once they get released, and providing pathways to employment and education, and providing that wraparound support once they leave custody.
So you were speaking about something that we would have needed as a youngster as well. Going back, to the early days. Where did you grow up, bro? Like, what was your area?
I moved around a lot, but predominantly I grew up in Campsie, Sydney's West.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, mum came here as a student, and she was studying music to be an opera singer. I know that opera singers do not make money, man. They look like they're living a lavish life,
Dressing up. And
in reality, she did it really hard, single mother. Hardly could speak English, and she's chasing her passion and a dream. But then her son's out there running amok, But I did come from a very broken home. I've seen a lot of things that kids shouldn't see as growing up between the parents, and that kind of affects you. And funny thing is, kids from broken households all naturally gravitate towards each other. And I
feel that too. I'm the same. Yeah,
man. And you end up joining a gang not because of the criminality factors. You join a gang because that's your sense of community.
Sense of belonging. Yeah.
Sense of belonging. Yeah. That's the only place where you feel that sense of belonging, because like you're troubled kids from broken households at school. You're going to act out certain ways, and it's going to be taken very differently by teachers in schools. I never felt accepted at school. So why should I go to school? When I could be on the streets getting, when kicking it back with the boys.
So, obviously it's that. So speaking about you, being from a broken home, was that obviously no father?
Yeah, no father figure.
Yeah. So that, obviously that sense of belonging, because I'm kind of grew up with no mother. So sometimes the parent does, having, for me, it was not having that emotional person, but obviously for the someone who doesn't have their father, it's what kind of feeling is that like? For me, it was kind of the missing of the emotional. What was that kind of feeling for you?
I just feel like, you need both mother and father. Look, there are a lot of kids, a lot of people who grew up with, a mother or a father that are doing very well, but everyone's situation is different, when I even talk about, it was, unfortunately, a lot of the things that happened in my environment led me into prison, And a lot of people say, well, we grew up in the West, we grew up in hard times, we grew up really hard, but we came out all right on the other side. But, it's very situational for every individual, so you can't really compare. It's not a cookie cutter situation. But for me, growing up as like a boy, coming into my adolescence, I wanted some sort of like male figure to kind of show me, like, like there's that rite of passage that all boys have. I never had that, growing up in school. Like I see my friends who are going like camping and fishing with the dad, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know how to fish. I kind of like, I wasn't jealous, but I was like, fuck, I wish I had something like that. And for me, where I found that was looking up to the older brothers in the area, and because they were good to me, but it wasn't always the right influence. That
wasn't always positive.
It wasn't. But at that time, I thought that was the only way. I thought that was positive because there was some brotherly love there. But later on, I realized that that's not real love.
sometimes it was all we had, you know, like we'll take it, you know, if that's the piece I'm going to feel, then I'm happy to stay and belong here.
And you know, when you try to look up to a male role model or male figure, and that's the only thing around you, you know, you go with like the least resistance. Like, okay, well, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like these guys I look up to, and they got all these nice cars, nice watches, and God knows what they're getting up to. But I want to do what they do. I didn't really know what they were doing when I was younger, you know. And just you just grow up and you start learning. Right, this is normality. You know, you're kind of ignorant of the opportunities out there, that there are better and bigger things. But you know, when you're growing up in that environment, in that community, that was all around me. So that's the only thing that I had.
Out of curiosity, bro, were you first generation here? Like, was your mum raised here?
No, mum came here as a student, so second generation, but born and raised here.
Okay, yeah. Because sometimes I find with like myself, I find the you know, the culture trying to divide, and you know, being the first generation here myself, it was kind of like those ways don't work, and so you're trying to, you know, my dad was a freshie, so to say, you know, so he's trying to teach me old school style, and it doesn't work here, so it kind of just didn't, you know, trying to adapt. And I'm sure being the outsider, were you the only child?
Only child, yeah.
So exactly the same,
it's confusing.
Yeah,
right? When you go to school, and when you're trying to grow up in the Australian society, you're learning one thing, but then at home it's like completely different, and you're stuck in the middle. You know, it's a confusing time for any.
It's almost like you got to figure it out yourself too.
Exactly.
So you know, obviously as a young, when did you kind of get curious, and you know, you started with did you start with like petty crimes, and how did it take that twist, you know?
Yeah, man. So literally worked my way up. Like I said, I never got into a gang because I've glorified crime or anything. Yeah, this is just something that everyone was doing, and I was like, okay, this is normal, right? So I'm Korean background, South Korean background. So we learn how to kick before we can walk, right? So already, you know, in primary school, I was a junior black belt, you know, and then I continued that. So I could throw.
So you had a few weapons in the bank.
I could definitely do a roundhouse kick, right? And at school, you know, trouble kid, and you know, at school what happens, a lot of fights, and I'm there roundhouse kicking every day, and it caught the attention of all the boys. And then, you know, I was hanging around with them more, and they were getting me to do small things like drops here, drops there. And then it got a little bit bigger. And then, you know, I was driving stuff around and taking it on trains to different states. And it got to a point where...
How old are you here? Sorry, by the way.
So by then I was about 17.
Shit.
Yeah, it was about 17. And then I think it was on after my 18th birthday, I ended up getting kidnapped because my gang owed a debt to some other group, right? And they held me as hostage
to bring him,
and as like ransom kind of thing, right? And my boys didn't show up. And they left me there. And then these guys said to me, "Goes, good to know that your boys got your back, right?" And I said, and I was thinking to myself, "Fuck this, you know, I'm taking all the bloody risk, right? And I'm making them all money, jack shit money for me. I'm gonna do it on my own." So I literally went on my own and started my own crew. What do I know? But one thing was when you're a young kid, you connected to all your other kids that are your age, and the only thing that those kids at that age take is ecstasy. Yeah. You know, when I first tried ecstasy, I was like, what the hell is this? The best thing ever, right? And I was like, I'm going to share this love with the world kind of thing, you know? Yeah, and that's where I started. And my first thing that took me off was schoolies. So we drove up like 30,000 tablets up to schoolies, and literally went in 2 days, disappeared in 2 days. And then the next year I was like, God, I'm going to do this again. And then schoolies turned into festivals, and then just one thing led to another. And just, you know, at the age of 20, I was running my own criminal syndicate. You know.
How many boys roughly did you have? How many boys did you roughly have around?
Look, anywhere between 15 to 20. Yeah, but some of them were like just like acquaintances who work with us, you know, but like direct boys about 9 to 10, you know. But like I always say, ironic, you know, when I was 20, I was directing a criminal enterprise. Fast forward to today, you know, I'm directing a social enterprise and a not-for-profit. How the fuck did that happen, right?
you know, sometimes it's you know, a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Yeah,
you know, they always say, like, especially like you know, dealers especially, they always say, like, if you can run that, you can run a business. You know how, like, and I think it's true, don't you? Like, you know, don't you reckon the same tools, same things apply?
There are a lot of synergies, you know, but I guess it's your values at the end of the day. It's your values and your morals that makes you different. You know, and for me, it's like, you know, I had to experience that myself firsthand. All the bullshit that I went through, all the disadvantage, and especially going to jail was a huge eye opener and a huge life lesson. And I do not wish that upon anyone else, and for the people in this society as well. So it's like, well, how can I use my lived experience to make something positive in the community? You know?
So, you know, so you remember you said 2021, you know, your life's flying festivals and, you know, everything. Where did it all kind of start declining and you know, ultimately, how did you end up incarcerated?
Yeah, man. So to be honest with you, when I started this, I never had this entrepreneurial mind, right? It was me. It was like easy come, easy go. I got access to ecstasy and let me just sell it. You know, it's going well, but I never had any structure. Like I said, I had never had older boys telling me, think about this as an enterprise or a business, right? For me, it was about getting fucked up every day, right? And literally, like, you know, why I did that was because I had a lot of childhood trauma, right? Childhood trauma, a lot of coming from disadvantage. Like for me, every day I had to be on something and I was fucked up off my head, right? And that was my life. That was my teenage years pretty much.
Every day.
Right? Pretty much every day I had to be drunk or high on something, right? And at the same time I was dealing, like, it's not a good combination at all, right? And literally it looked like my week looked like, one of my weeks looked like this. I was started partying on a Wednesday, right? And then I woke up on Sunday morning, right? I started partying in Sydney, right? Woke up on Sunday at the Kwon building in Surfers Paradise. And I was like, why is there a beach outside? How the fuck did I get here? I had no recollection of how I got there. It was like a full hangover moment, bro. Yeah, I was like, fuck me dead, you know. And it was pretty toxic. That was my life. And add drugs and add a little bit of business into it. You know, that was pretty much, I wouldn't call it a sophisticated syndicate, you know. It looked like it from the outside, but in reality, it was just me just getting off my head, bro. You know,
the hourglass had already started by then.
Yeah, man. And then, you know, one thing led to another. You know, I'm not even thinking twice about things, right? I had no one stopping me. And I was thinking, you know, at the age of 20, you think you're unstoppable, right? It. I was at the age with a chip on my shoulder. I've got my entourage with me, you know, like I'm unstoppable. You know, that was a kind of mentality.
Yeah.
You know, how fucking stupid I was, right? But, you know, it all came crumbling down after my 21st birthday. You know, I was staying at the Shangri-La Hotel. I just did a massive drug deal. I had close to about 50K cash on the coffee table, and I ordered room service that morning. And I still remember what I ordered. I ordered a long black, a big breakfast, and orange juice. And I knew room service was going to come up, so I put like a bed sheet over the cash, pile of cash on the coffee table. And I get a knock on the door, and I'm thinking it's room service. I walked over to the door, and the next thing, the door swings open. I see guys wearing black, wearing balaclavas, coming in with this fucking big machine gun, saying, "Get the fuck on the floor!" And you know, like, two things came into my mind. I'm thinking, first, I'm fucking getting robbed. That's the part of the game. You get robbed all the time, right? So I'm getting robbed. These guys are here for the cash, right? I'm going to throw it. And the second thing that came to my mind, by the way, this isn't the fucking breakfast that I ordered.
That's not what I ordered,
I ordered a fucking long black. All I see is scary dudes with machine guns wearing black, you know? But yeah, I've thrown the cash everywhere. I beeline to the door and I get a machine gun to the side of the head. And, you know, I'm now fucking in disarray because, like, huge fucking bump to the head and there's cash all over the floor. And I'm getting hogtied on the floor and I hear the words, "You're under arrest, this is the police." And literally everything was in slow-mo, probably because I was fucking concussed. But everything was in slow-mo and, you know, I had cash all around me. It looked like something out of a movie scene. And I'm looking out.
Were you one out?
Huh?
Were you one out?
I was by myself at the time. You know? I had my Cowie downstairs. And he got done because he had a gat in the car, and they boxed him in. They threw the gas canister into his car and everything. But literally, as I was getting hogtied in that room, you know, I'm thinking, fuck me dead, this is fucked. Everything was in slow-mo and I'm looking at the floor-to-ceiling window of my executive suite of my hotel, and I see the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, right? And growing up, I told you my mum was an opera singer, starting to be an opera singer. So she used to always, on the weekends, take me to the Opera House to watch these shows and stuff. And man, did I take everything for granted, bro, because I've seen the Opera House and Harbour Bridge my whole life. And at that moment, that was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. And that was my last view of freedom for a very, very long time. At the age of 21, I got sentenced to 13 years in prison for directing a criminal enterprise. Yeah, man. And I literally thought my life was over, but boy, was I wrong. It was a start of a big new journey that I took on. Yeah.
So it would have been like a beautiful moment of, just realization. It just hits home when you're sitting there, because, that feeling of when they get you. But did you know what, the stint you would have been in for, or was it kind of up in the, did you know, like, because I know the boys, when I was inside, don't really, like, it surprised me when I was in there that they move according to what the penalty is. So like, they'll be like, oh, I want to do this, but then they'll be like, oh, you get 2 years for it. They already know what you're gonna.
Yeah.
When you got pinched, did you know, like, I'm in for a whack, or was it just?
My charges were 2 by large commercial quantities of importation and supply.
So they've been watching you for a bit.
Yeah. There was an investigation for months, but I should have known, man. Like I said, I was so off my head all the time.
You just wouldn't have even known.
Like I when you get arrested, you start to realize that motherfucker that was sitting in that cafe, I knew he was a copper, and that time when that car was following me the whole time, I knew, it all comes back to you. But, when your brain is so clouded, it's, you're never going to realize, and I guess it was a blessing in disguise that I did go to jail, because who knows where I would have been today, the rate that I was going at that time, anything could have happened. You know what I mean?
There's this quote that I read, bro, and it's like, the pain doesn't leave until the lesson is learned. And sometimes I know with Confit Pathways, and it's like, I wouldn't say preaching, but we try to better these young men's lives. But I still feel inside me, when I was young, I heard it a million times. Don't do this, better this. And I'm like, I felt almost like I had to hit that bottom by myself to learn. Do you think that's the same, or can we actually, influence someone, to make better decisions?
Man, so I was talking about this with Paco, who came with us to the high school today to run the prevention program at the high school. And I said to him, look, there's a big difference between the boys that we run the programs in the schools who haven't been to jail yet or juvie yet, and the boys that are actually in juvie that we run the programs for. And the biggest difference is an understanding and gratitude of life, right? And the little things that they had, because when you go to prison and you get everything taken away from you, it hits you. It hits home. You're like, shit, that ice cream that was in the freezer that I wouldn't even think twice about, now is something big to me. I'm so grateful to have this. Or even that night, the ability to go on a walk in the middle of the night. How many times have you had experience? When you were locked in your prison cell, and you felt like the fucking walls were caving in, and you're feeling that frustrated, you can't you're hyperventilating. You're like, all I want to do is just go for a nice little walk outside and get some fresh air. But you can't do that. You're fucking in a prison cell, right?
And you're locked in all afternoon, like
exactly.
And like,
and sometimes you're locked in for fucking days or weeks because there's a stabbing in the unit or something.
I was in there during COVID, and it's just they kept us in there all weekend. We got short staff. I'm like, fuck, get me out of here.
And like on Christmas, you're locked in every Christmas because it's short staff. And when that happens to you, you don't have to go to prison to realize this, but when something dramatic happens to you in your life and it clicks, you go, shit, I'm taking life for granted. And that is a starting point, but a lot of people, they get that, but because there's no support networks for them to take that next step, they go, crap, I'm just going to go back to what I know, and that's why Confit Pathways is there for individuals. We're going to help them to understand that spark, right? And then if they want to make that change, we're there for them to support them through the process.
Is it, I know it's all about embodying the change and being the change yourself. Was it hard to be someone that you hadn't seen before? Like, obviously, I know when you would have started this journey with, all the boys know you as the old Joe and that person, and it's kind of hard to venture off. Was it hard for you to be like, fuck, I'm going this way, like that's it for me, or was it just something you kind of gradually worked on?
Yeah, mate. It's like, look, when I first got out, you know, the boys came out, saw me. They gave me the encrypted phones.
Yeah,
like, let's go. You're out, you're out. But you know what, to me, I was like, look, I love you boys. You know, I did hang around with them for a while, but when you know where you want to go and your mind's so set on changing your ways, you're like living two different worlds, and we didn't connect anymore. Like, we used to hang out, go for drinks, but then it got funny. They wouldn't talk bizzo in front of me, you know? And whenever I used to talk about my stuff, like, it just didn't kind of resonate with them either, you know? And it was a slow, gradual kind of separation. And I even said to them, like, don't do this stuff in front of me, because like I can't be seen doing this anymore, you know? And I just wanted them to respect me. I was like, if you love me as a brother, you'll respect me for what I do. And that's how it was. You know, there was never, your boys aren't going to force anything upon you if they love you, you know? Yeah,
that's it. And then it's kind of just like, you almost have to draw that line in the sand there and just be like, you know, this is the way I want to head. And to be honest, like, most of the boys, when I kind of ventured off, and exactly the same, drifted more and more and more, and then less time. It's like, fuck, I walk away from those conversations like,
I remember I told you before, it's about your values and your morals, you know, and you are the 5 people that you hang around closely with all the time. And, you know, if your values and your morals are so different, you naturally just disengage from each other. You know, we still follow each other on socials. If I was to meet the old boys on the street, it would be the same, as if nothing changed. But the thing is, you know, we're all going our own ways. You know, but that love as a brother is still there. You know, that's never going to change. You know, I'll never forget who I am and where I come from, same as you. You'll never forget your roots, you know? But the thing is, it's about where you're going in the future.
What would you say to, you know, one of the young brothers who are watching now, you know, wants to change his life, but, you know, I guess the circle isn't quite, you know, heading that way. But I know in me, I always wanted to be better, and I kind of had to force and find that. But what would you say to a youngster that's kind of trying to break from the cycle? Is there any advice you'd give to them? Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like I said before, your brothers will, if you really want to change, your brothers will respect you for your decisions, right? And remember, I told you about, you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with, right? Find another circle. You know, it's hard, but there are, if you really want something, I truly believe you can make it. You know, when I got out, when the boys were offering me all this money, places to stay, I was like, no, you know, I had to swallow my pride and my ego. I ended up living in a house that was about to get demolished, right? No hot water, no electricity. There was like holes, like this wooden floor, and there was like holes in the floor in winter. Like, I was fucking freezing my ass off, man.
But it's like, fuck, I'll be in jail, bro. This is all right.
But I kept on telling myself, it's going to get better. You know, it's going to get better. I know what I want. This is just a start. And that really drove me. You know, if I can do that, and I love living comfortably before, right? But yes, you go through jail. But then when I was living in that condition, I was like, you know what? This is better than having my liberties and my freedom taken away. I'd rather live like this, knowing that I'm going to live the way I want, right? It may not be like all the other boys, you know, living it up, whatever. But I'm actually following my purpose, what I wanted to do. And this is me. This is my life. You know, I'm not going to go back to that. And I know I'm going to make something out of myself being a social entrepreneur in Australia. Yeah.
Did you always feel like you had a bigger calling? Like when you were in jail, did you feel like, because for me, when I was there, man, to be honest, I felt delusional, because I'm like, I'm going to go out there and still, like, I'm still going to make it. This is going to be part of my story. Not a lot of the boys are like, fuck, this is it. Like, I've hit the rock bottom. And did you always feel like there was a calling for you, or did you know you were destined for something better?
Man, to be honest with you, I had no self-worth, so, you know, being a part of a gang, you know, I was really relying on them. I didn't really know anything. I dropped out of school in year 10. I was uneducated. I didn't really have family support. You know, when I was 18, mum moved back to Korea, so I was living on my own. So I don't have any other family here, so no family support. The only friends that I had were in the game. And here I am trying to changed my life around. I'm thinking, I don't know how. I don't know fucking how to do this, you know?
It's going away from all your support system.
Bro, like I just like, I didn't want to spend, like I knew for a fact if I continue doing crime, it's going to be definitely double digits next time, you know? I got 13 with a 9, so 13 years on top. Minimum parole period I had to do was 9, you know? So I'm thinking the next time I get caught, I'm definitely doing like a whack, right? Double digit, right? I didn't want to come back to jail. You know how fucking shit jail is.
Yeah.
It's not a place any human should be, right? And I wanted to change my life and I didn't know how. And I seen the common denominator for everyone. I'm looking around the yard and I see the commonalities, right? Obviously, everyone comes from some sort of childhood or life trauma, some sort of disadvantage, or some of them are just plain greedy, you know. But
some are just weak.
There's something fucked up there, right? But then, like, the common theme that I found was no one was educated, including myself. I was a part of that statistic. You know, I dropped out of school in year 10. So I'm thinking, fuck, maybe I should educate myself. Maybe this might open up some doors, maybe, right? And one day I was reading this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you read it by Robert Kiyosaki? Yeah. If you haven't read it, go read it. It's a great book. But in that book, one of the sections it said, accounting is the language of business. And I know business, but illegal business, right? Yeah. So I'm like, why don't I go teach myself this new language of legitimate business? I want to learn this accounting, right? So I went to the prison library, got myself a first year accounting textbook.
What jail was this at?
This was at Windsor.
Oh, yeah.
No, sorry, it was at Lithgow. It was at Lithgow. And as I opened it up, right? As I opened it up, all I see is hieroglyphics. And I'm fucking sweating and I'm thinking, fuck, I thought Asians were meant to be good with numbers, bro. And I'm like, I must be dumb as fuck. I'm missing some sort of chromosome or something, you know? I had no idea what the hell they were talking about in that book, right? So I'm feeling defeated. But that exact same day, this guy walks into the yard, right? The rumor in the yard was he's a billionaire accountant who come to jail for Australia's largest tax fraud, right? Everyone was trying to extort this guy because they heard the word billionaire. All I heard was the word accountant, right? Yeah. So I approached the guy and, you know, obviously he's been hit up all day, all these extortion attempts, you know, and here I am approaching this guy and I went up to him and gave him a proposal that he couldn't refuse. And I said, look, listen, I'm going to give you the protection of myself and the boys. No one is going to lay a finger on you. In return, you teach me accounting every day. And you should have seen his face. He's like, what kind of fucking hustle are you trying to play on me right now, you know? But, you know, not long after, he ended up becoming my cellmate. And not only did he keep his end of the bargain, right, and teach me accounting every day, but he taught me about business. He taught me about the value of education. And most importantly, he taught me about self-worth, you know? And that's the one thing that I needed as a young man was to believe in myself that I can do something that was outside of that circle. You know, he made me literally made me read books every day. He even got me to do my HSC while I was inside, right? And not long after, we ended up parting ways and we went to different jails, right? And I was at Wellington Correctional Centre. I was in the yard playing cards with the boys and this prison officer walks up to me and he hands me this letter. He goes, Kwon, I don't know how you fucking did it, but you bloody did it, mate. And out of curiosity, I've taken this letter back into my cell. I'm going, what the hell is this? I've opened it up. And as I opened it up, I read this, there's this emblem and it goes, congratulations, you've been admitted into the University of New South Wales.
Oh.
You know, and I remember when I got sentenced at court, you know, and all that bullshit you go through in jail, especially being in a regional jail, you don't get visits. It's pretty hard, you know. And I went through all this bullshit and I never shed a tear. From the moment that I got sentenced or went to jail to like that point, I never shed a tear, but I was holding on to that letter and I was bawling my eyes out, you know, and I was like crying so hard because no one understood the feeling of freedom that I was feeling in that moment. You know, for me, education not only gave me hope, but it set me free. And today, we run this mentoring program because it was that one mentor who was able to help me to change my life around, to have a different perspective on life, right?
That's powerful, bro.
And we mentor young people. Imagine having a whole team of positive mentors that are going back into the Youth Justice Centre to help these young people to have that same sense of self-worth, you know, and that same sense of support, you know, for these guys to have that same life-changing experience. Maybe not now, Maybe not a bit later, but sometime they're going to come to that point where like, I'm going to change my life around, you know, and we're there for them. You know what I mean? And that's what Confit Pathways is.
I think that's a powerful story, man. And I think, you know how they always say, people say like, if I can just touch one person, and I think, you know, obviously he was that guy for you, you know, and I'm sure you've been that. Obviously, we can tell by the boys that you are that for, you know, a few of your boys that you're already, you know, close to, and it's kind of like a you want to be in what you never had and give what you never had. I think I get that from Pac 2, where he's, you know, supporting and you know, backs me all the time, and so sometimes there's things that I never had in my life, and if you can be that thing to a person, then you know, it's a powerful story. So is that how Confit came about?
Well, that's how the not-for-profit came about. The idea of the not-for-profit was to provide this support for the young people. You know, why don't we get them while they're young? You know, they don't have to go to adult jails and then waste another X amount of years before they realize later on in their lives, fuck, I wasted my whole life, you know? So that was the not-for-profit, why we wanted to start that, to help the younger generation. Confit, the business, the social enterprise, that idea came about because they used to call me like the trainer in jail, because every yard that I used to go to, I used to always grab, you know, like-minded people and start a training group, you know. So
there's always that one or two, that group every day that goes. Did they have because when I was there, they had the bags and everything. Did they have the bags there?
What bags?
They had the the little, you know, the ones that you whack over your shoulder.
No.
They had the bottles. That,
yeah,
like,
we had water bottles.
Yeah,
right? So this is how the joke came about. So I used to always train with the boys, and that was my purpose in jail, man. Every day I'll wake up, 2 sessions or 3 sessions, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. If I could get one during the day, I would get one during the day, right? And at night when I get locked up, I'll write the routines out for myself and all the boys for the next day or for the whole week, right? And that was my purpose in there. Like, when you got nothing else, what else do you look forward to? This was the only thing that was positive in our lives, which is really good, right? Anyway, and there was one day we're just training, and like there was all these bottles. There were all these bottles in the unit, right? And you know, the detergent bottles and the thin coal bottles, we'll save it and put water in it, and we'll use it as weights, right? And we're like, fuck fitness first. When we get out, let's start this business called Bottles First, right? And do like prison style training. And it was an inside joke, but I actually took it serious. I was like, you know what? We're sitting on something. Like, no one knows how to do fitness, prison style training on the outside. Why don't I introduce this to everyone, right? And that was the commercial side. Then the social side was, I was training in the yard with the boys. We had a training group, and one of the boys got out. And literally, not even 2 months later, he came back straight away into our same training group. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Do you fucking love jail, man? and he the response that he gave to me really hit me. He hit home, because he goes, man, it's not like I didn't want to change. You know, I tried to find a job. I couldn't find a job. I didn't have any support. I had no money. You know, I got no family to go out to either, because he burnt all his bridges. He'd been in and out of jail, right? And he goes, this time I really wanted to do something different. But he ended up getting this job in construction, just like shoveling brooms and stuff. And apparently he was getting like looked down on and ridiculed. And even though he wanted to connect with the people, he couldn't, because he was like, they knew he was from jail and all that kind of stuff. So he was treated like a second-class citizen, right? And he goes, bro, I don't know, one thing to another, I'm just back in jail now. I was like, fuck, you know what? I could see that in myself. Because imagine I go out, all I know is criminals. I don't want to hang out with them. And imagine if society doesn't accept it. That's what it says. Society does not accept people like us. I was like, fuck me, that's me, man. And I was like, how do I, not just to help myself, but how do I help other boys as well, you know, or girls, you know, that are coming out the system? And one thing that I knew how to do best at the time, I had no education behind me, but one thing I was very confident at was training, was fitness. And I was like, you know what, let's turn this into a business. And I didn't even know what a social enterprise was. I'm like, what the fuck is a social enterprise, right? And I had to go to uni. You know, when I got out of prison, I went straight to uni, right? And I was sitting in the lecture, and the first lecture I went to, it's called Creating Social Change. It's one of those core business subjects that you have to do, right?
Yeah.
And the lecturer was talking about, you know, like prison, like the reincarceration rates and disadvantaged communities. And I was like, fuck, this is all up my alley, you know? And I approached the lecturer after the lecture. It was the funniest thing, right? And I was like, hey, my name is Joe. I just got out of Long Bay prison. I've got this business idea. Can you help me out with this business idea? And she goes, are you even a student in my class? She thought I was some random that came off the street, right?
Oh my God.
But she introduced me to an organization called Center for Social Impact. They're based in UNSW, and they help me to formulate what Confit is today, which is a social enterprise using business to help a social cause, or to focus on a social cause. For us is providing opportunities for those who are coming out of incarceration through fitness, and to break down that society's negative stereotyping that people have with inmates, right? Not all people coming out of jail are bad people. Like I said, like the majority of people are in there because of lack of opportunities, disadvantage, and some sort of trauma.
Lack of tools to deal with things too, eh?
We shouldn't be focusing on the actual crime. As a society, we should be focusing on what led this person, individual, to do the crime in the first place. You know, we should be focusing on the community, you know? And that's how we developed the social enterprise. And funny story, that lecturer today, she's one of the board members on a not-for-profit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, come full circle.
All right, so going back onto uni, what were you studying?
So I studied Bachelor of Commerce.
Yeah.
Majoring in marketing and management.
Oh man.
I started with accounting, right? Because my mentor in jail taught me accounting. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna use accounting. I went there, most boring batshit. Sorry to all the accountants, but it was the most boring batshit dry subject. I just couldn't justify falling asleep in every lecture. So I went, fuck accounting, man. But I really believed what I wanted to do was create a community and create a strong brand, like GEEDUP, you know? Create a strong brand around what we were doing.
Oh, so you were studying commerce, yeah? Did you say? Is that where you got the scholarship from?
No. So
tell me about this scholarship, because I've seen you traveling around everywhere, visiting all these other prisons.
Yeah. So it's funny. There's so when I came out of prison, I had this idea of Confit, helping the boys. Literally, I had no one to back me. I had $0. And I was like, how am I going to start this thing? It was just literally an idea. And we started off at a park, right, in Auburn. And I just invited the boys down, and we're just doing a group training session. I was like, look, tell your friends to come down as well. And I started charging their friends like $15 cash, you know.
Cash?
Yeah, literally it was like, give me cash. And that's all I knew, right? And, the group started getting bigger. And one of the boys are like, you should literally turn this into a proper business, make a website and, have a payment gateway. And, luckily I had a lot of people to help me with this kind of stuff as well. But my whole focus around this thing was, all right, how do we make a platform to bridge this social gap, right? And get our name out there saying that we're not all bad people. We want to break down that stereotyping. And as the business grew, the social enterprise group, we got really massive. We got big during COVID, right? When all the fitness business started regressing, overnight, we became the experts in confined space bodyweight training. Because, we used to train in ourselves. We used to train in ourselves. We know everything about prison fitness and, having resiliency around being locked up and stuff like that, right? And companies like Google and Atlassian reached out to me saying, can you consult our employees and run wellness and mindset workshops for them to have a better understanding and be more resilient throughout these times of lockdown. I'm like, when the fuck in the history of time did inmates ever being locked up was ever considered an actual skill? And our brand started growing from there. And then I applied for this Westpac Scholarship. And what it does is they hand out 10 people throughout the whole of Australia every year, and it's a Westpac Social Scholarship, right? So it's for social entrepreneurs who are making, impacting Australia through their own social initiative, right? And I went through the interview process, and it was it's heavy, right? So you put in a massive application process, which it took me weeks to do, right? Then you have multiple interviews, and I made it to the final panel. I was like, far out, how the hell did I make it to the final panel? And then the final panel was, you got to sit in front of 3 panelists, right? And you have to give them a pitch, and they grill you for like 40 minutes on why you should be a Westpac social scholar, right?
Almost like a Shark Tank version.
Bro, and I told them, you have no idea. The last time I was sitting in front of 3 judges was at the Supreme Court. You know? But they asked me this question. They go, we're a bank. We're the most risk-averse organization, right? And you're considered pretty risky. You just come out of jail. You're on parole, right? How can
you're still on parole?
I was finishing off parole when I got that, right? And they're like, how can you reassure us that you're not a risk to us? And I said, look, with the work that I've done already, if I haven't reassured you already, right? I can't. But if an organization like you can't provide opportunities for people like me, how do you ever expect society to offer second chances and opportunities for all these other individuals coming out of jail? And that won me over, man. And, you know, this scholarship allowed me to travel. I could have done anything with this scholarship, right? I had free reins of choice of like.
What was it? They gave you a balance, or was it?
So they give you 50K to use it towards your own personal development to be a social change leader in Australia, right? And many people go to like Harvard and they do like a short Harvard course, or they go to some like prestigious university around the world and they meet up with like, you know, corporate executives and they undertake all these other studies. But for me, it was like, I've fucking just come out of a university, finished a university degree. I don't want to study anymore. But for me, I wanted to understand the different prison systems around the world. So I said, okay, well, let's go visit the most progressive prison system in the developed Western world. Then let's go to the least, right? So the most progressive is the Scandinavian prison model, and the least is the American. American model is fucked up, right? The American prisons.
It seems that, eh? Is it like what we see on these shows and that?
Bro, like it's crazy because seeing the two differences, I was dumbfounded, right? And it feels like Australia's damn like stuck in the middle, right? Of those two. So I went to New York.
Was that your first?
No, my first trip was to Norway.
Okay.
So I went to Norway. I visited a prison called Bergen Prison. So I visited 2 prisons. So it was more of an open minimum security style prison. Then I went to a maximum security prison, right? The maximum security prison literally was like better than any university dorm, right? It was crazy. They don't have bars. The floor are wooden. Everyone's got a mini fridge in their cell. They've got ensuite bathroom and shower in their cell, right? The bed is hectic. They've got the table. They got computer, TV access, everything, right? They don't even have uniforms. They've got a key to their door, right? I'm getting at something. I'm gonna tell you why they do this, right? So they have workshops, like industries where you can go work or you can study. So the government pays you to study, right? Or they pay you to work. When you get paid, you're actually getting paid the same amount of money you will be getting paid on the outside. But I was thinking, wow, Scandinavians are such great people. They have such generosity. No, they're just pragmatic, man. Put it this way, Scandinavia has the highest tax brackets in the world. They pay the highest amount of tax.
So they're still getting taxed, are they?
For them, they're like, okay, how do we minimize our tax, right? And make society a better place. So they straight away, they're like, let's try this model because we can divert this tax money going into prison into elsewhere. And this is how they save taxpayer dollars, right? Inmates all get paid the same amount of salary on the outside, but they pay tax on that. They pay rent to the jail. They rent out their cell, right?
What?
Then they buy their own groceries, right? The jail does not, they feed a minimal food, but they buy their own groceries like normal people do in society. So you're
basically just living in a confined
Brother, they're normalizing everyday life. At the same time, corrective services are saving money. So you know what the biggest the money spender in Australian corrections or any other corrections is like, how do we feed, house all these inmates? You know, over there, it's like it's all self-sufficient. Inmates are paying for everything. They're working, and at the same time, when they get out, you know, their number one question is, would you rather want this individual, right? Scandinavian law, the maximum amount you can get is like 21 years. So that's the maximum. And no one ever gets the maximum.
Is that right? For what, like just in general? Or?
In general, like if you have a murder or whatever, like they get 21 years, Shit. Right? And it's like, okay, well then this individual is hypothetically could become your next door neighbor. Would you rather want someone who's fucking hating the world, right? Hating the world and not reformed at all, right? And committing a crime probably right next door to you? Or do you want someone who's like rehabilitated? I don't even know what that word means, but someone who's now changed their ways, right? And doing good in society, and who's probably not going to be a risk to you. Who would you rather want as your neighbor, right? And that's their that kind of motto, right?
That's their philosophy on that one.
Exactly, you know, and their prison system is so good. It's not even a prison. Like, they believe that being taken away from your family and society and put into this place is punishment enough. But they want to change you as a person. They're humanizing the whole process. Whereas you go to America, geez, you know, like as soon as I went, you know, I went to Rikers Island, holds over 10,000 inmates on that one island. I needed to get on a shuttle bus to go from wing to wing, right? And the reason why I was able to get into these prisons was because I could say to them that I was a Westpac scholar, right? And two, I do prison fitness programs, and I want to offer it to your inmates for free, you know? At the same time, I get to learn about their prison, and I get to deliver something for the inmates. And when I went to New York, they literally just put me in the yard, closed the door behind me, see you later. And I was like, and they told me there was a stabbing here a week ago. They've been locked in for the whole week, and they're probably a bit zombied out right now. I'm like, what the hell? And they're like, see ya. And they locked the door. I was like, fuck me, dead. You know, and I went there, and you know what? Whether you're in Australia, whether you're in Scandinavia, whether you're in Australia, the people that are in custody, it's all the same. I was able to click with these guys from the get-go. We're all the same people, right? We all come from the same culture, the same, like that environment, you know, it's very similar, right? But the question is the end product, how are you going to come out of the system? And in America, you come out worse than when you went in, right? Because your environment is what makes you. Right? Do you believe that? Like, the 100%. Environment is what shapes you and makes you, right? So you got the Scandinavian model where you're being treated like better than normal people on the outside, and, you know, like, they're giving you all these opportunities, whereas here you're actually literally treated like shit.
Is that prison? Did you know at all any statistic about the offending rate at that prison?
Yes. So Norway's got 20% recidivism rate. Whereas America has 70, I think high 70s recidivism rate.
Because I don't think people, like, you know, for the people at home, like, it's just, especially when, like you said, we're smack bang in the middle, but I can only imagine in the US, like, the stakes are just always high, man. You're always like, I never tried to get comfortable when I was there, because it's always uneasy. You can't be off guard. You kind of...
Bro, so I went to this event. There's an organization called Defy Ventures. They help inmates to learn entrepreneurial skills inside jail, and they were having this event, and I went to the event, and I ended up meeting these two guys who are former gang leaders from the Bronx, right? And I met them at this event, and I was like, hey man, I'm sick of seeing like Times Square and seeing all the touristy stuff. Show me the real New York, right? And they're like, you want to go to the Bronx? They're like, you want to go to the Bronx? I was like, yeah man, show me the Bronx. And they're like, oh, let's take this Aussie kid to the Bronx kind of thing, you know? And they took me to this area, right? Literally invite only. These couple streets were run by all the local gangs, right? And it's invite only. And they took me in, and I literally got patted down before I went in. And they're like, that's a crack house. I was like, can I see inside, please? They're like, yeah, we'll take you in. And literally I went in. It's straight like the movies. I had this Puerto Rican grandma came out, missing teeth, off her chops. I didn't understand a fucking single word that she was saying.
Did you get
like,
a number?
Dude. Yeah, bro, I got it on Snapchat. No, but I could see the direct pipeline from that community straight into the prison, you know, and I could see that. You know, it's just the disadvantage that these communities have, and it was really sad to see, Brent.
There's just no hope, hey?
There was no support. There was no support for these communities, you know, and I just feel like there's a lot of communities in Australia, not just in Sydney, but all over Australia that have that lack of support from like the community support, you know, and it's beautiful what GEEDUP is doing, because you guys are standing behind a brand, your community base, you know, and it's something that like people, no matter where they're from, it's like a beacon. It's like something that they can represent themselves with, you know, and I truly respect the fact that, you know, for you guys, you could be doing anything, but you want to touch on that whole community piece of, you know, you're a part of the community as well. GEEDUP is a part of the community, and you want to give back. You don't want to lose that grassroots of where you guys have come from. And that's why I feel like, you know, our partnership with Confit Pathways and GEEDUP is so aligned in our values when it comes to that community support and having a brand or like a purpose behind that people can get behind, you know, the community can get behind, you know.
I think I shared this before on another podcast where, like, exactly to the T of what you're saying about, you know, people like accepting us for who we are. And you know, I see Pac as the epitome of someone who's just unapologetically himself, you know, tattoo on the face, on his ear, like, you know, on the side of his face, knees everywhere. And like, he'll just walk into corporate places and people are just like, who's that? You know, and like, it's either take me or, you know, as I am, or that's it. And I think I'm learning a lot of that as well. Like, I still carried a bit of shame when I came out, and you know, trying to, obviously I've been getting a lot of messages lately of how far, you know, we come. And I think that growth of, you know, just being ourselves and being who you are. I'm sure when you get your introduction, and it's very different to how you would have felt when people were meeting you as a, you know, as soon as they kind of mention ex-criminal, or, you know, then people kind of, but then they like your story now. So
I want all the listeners, right, to understand Australia was built up by inmates that were sent from England, right? They're all on chains, but look at the country that they developed right now to this great country it is today, right? I can't say everything's great, but there are a lot of great things about Australia, right? But that was built up on second chances. Right? And it's like, what we're trying to advocate is, we do not advocate for crime or all that bullshit that goes on. We don't support that. As a brand, we do not support that, right?
Same as us, yeah.
But exactly. I know GEEDUP is the same. We do not support all that bullshit. But what we're supporting is second chances for these individuals to have that, to come out and have a voice. You know, we are the voice for these individuals to go, look, society might look at us like this, but this isn't that's maybe who we were before, but this isn't who we are now. You know, and it's through storytelling. And even GEEDUP, like, you know, you guys came from nothing. Paco, yourself, went to prison, but look where you guys are now. You know, and it's just to show society that changes can be made. You know, and it's just, there's a lot of tunnel vision and tunnel vision thinking, because I know there's a lot of negativity portrayed in media, in movies. You know, like, fucking hell, Netflix has a show called like World's Toughest Prisons, and they go, these guys are so dangerous. But like I said, we've been in jail, right? Like, there's only a small minority of people who are actually fucking dangerous, who I feel that some people should not be let out into society, right? But the majority of people, right, they just really misunderstood, and they never had an opportunity, you know. And that's what we're doing here. We want to advocate to society to go, let's open up doors, let's open up our minds, and provide some second opportunities for these individuals who want to change their life around.
So what are the synergies between GEEDUP and Confit Pathways in the community, would you say?
Look, I know a lot of people might get a lot of mixed messages from GEEDUP, because, you know, a lot of your ambassadors are like drill rap artists who talk about prison and about crime, but at the end of the day, it's about, we're not supporting that. You guys are supporting artists, right? But you're supporting, like, you're more about having people to be able to resonate with what you guys are actually doing, right? So you know what we do with Confit, and I guess, you know, our values and morals align with what we're trying to do for the community. And the biggest part of, I think, what we can relate to and connect with is moving forward is what we're able to do for the community. So I don't know if you want to talk about this, about the sporting apparel you guys are going to drop sometime next year. Yeah,
so we got some sporting apparel that we'll roll out soon. But I wanted to cross path it with the gym as well. But I guess before we get into that, is there how do you think, you know, GEEDUP can help the cause and the message behind, you know, Confit as well? Like, you know, so, how's the funding going to help, and us and collabing together, and you know, the long term of our collaboration and partnership.
Yeah, I think there are a few ways that GEEDUP can help, where we can help each other. Is that the funding's going to go towards opening up a gym in Parramatta. So we'll be opening up a social enterprise gym where we are going to create a space for those who are previously incarcerated to be able to train with just general members of the public, right? And it's a place where people could come, where young people through our program can come and feel safe and belong to a community. GEEDUP already has a community, so we would love to tap into that community as well, because I feel that a lot of people that, you know, follow GEEDUP or they use GEEDUP as like their go-to or it's their brand, can resonate with a lot of stuff that we're doing. So there's a lot of connections right there. It's not just about the prison, you know, it's about the way we lived, the way we grew up. You know, it's more about culture than anything else, right?
Because we also offer and give those, you know, the kids that never had a home, and we also offer that sense of belonging as well. When you slide on that hoodie, you know, some people, you know, there's memes out there where some people go 10 foot when they put it on, which I'll be honest, it does. You know, some kids feel, you know, like, you know, they're ready to, you know, take on the day, take on the world, and they kind of grow a bit when they slip it on. And if that's, you know, what we can give to, you know, a kid growing up, and, you know, like us, we lack the sense of belonging. I also lacked of, you know, being seen as a kid, and, you know, always trying to get validation outside. And I guess that's what we can help these young men through as well.
Bro, you should have seen how crazy it was. So today, Paco drove his Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
He drove his Rolls Royce to this school, right? So this school, La Mandra High School in Campbelltown. So they've got a lot of disengaged young people who are very close to coming in contact or have already come in contact with the justice system. And as soon as we drove that car in, the boys are like, fucking, I'm GEEDUP. And, you know, and they're like, oh, Confit brought GEEDUP down. And you should have seen the smiles on their faces. And it's like, for them to know that a big brand like GEEDUP has their back, for them, that's like massive hope. You know, that's a massive, like, these guys, they're with us as well. You know, and for them, you should have seen the changes on their face. It was massive, you know. And that's in regards to that, like, that's how I think we can resonate with a lot of the work that we do in youth justice and in corrections, and have that link to such a reputable brand. You know, it just gives so much more hope and belonging to these people who felt so disengaged from society. You know, is to help them to be able to bring them back into society again.
Yeah, that's it. So, you know, obviously, it's basically in your opinion, is GEEDUP a positive, you know, household name for these kids?
100%, 100%. Like, sometimes they might get mixed messages from, like, you know, all the rap lyrics and all that kind of stuff, but they got to look beyond the rap. It's like, how do we resonate with you guys to start off with, you know? And they got to see past that. And, you know, a lot of the kids are like, oh yeah, well, they went to jail. They're probably using like dodgy money to do all this kind of stuff. But we always tell them, there's no easy way out. It's hard work, and you can't just say you made money from doing crime because that's all you know, right? There are other ways of making money. There are other avenues of creating wealth, you know, and chasing purpose, you know, and that's what we're here to teach them, you know, because they're so fixated around their immediate life, immediate circle, and that's all they know. And we try to help them to expand their kind of mind a little bit, saying there are other opportunities.
Kind of just
there,
like not putting your mind in that box, eh? And I think even, you know, to an extent corporately, some of my friends that I haven't spoken to in a while, like that, you know, when I talk to them, like they still think, you know, is Pac still, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, it's like the mind is still like it can't happen without doing that stuff. Like, nah, he's got this in that car, surely. And I'm like, bro, it's not how it is.
It's the same thing. You see a dude that's pretty jacked, right? Straight away, a lot of people go, he's on steroids.
Yeah, that's it.
I was like, well, how do you know he's on steroids, right? That's because in your mind, that's the only way to get quick. But don't you know this person's put hours of hard work and dedication every day, dieting, eating clean, not going out getting fucked up, you know, and focusing on making his body his fucking temple or her temple. What do you think then that's steroids, you know? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just this
100%.
limiting beliefs, you know, and that's the thing we want to talk to all of the young people that we work with as well. Is like there's no such thing as an easy way out. It's not, no business like this is a steroid business. You know, it's hard work, dedication over years. You know, how long did it take for you guys to build GEEDUP from the get-go? Like what? Like
it's over 13 years
over
now.
13 years. You know, it wasn't an overnight fucking, you know, overnight thing where you
He's
go,
even
hey,
Pac hung the towel up about 3 times in that 13 years. Just drew in the towel, like, that's it. I think we're done. Came back, tried again, came back, tried again. It's just, he always says, you know, it's just never about quitting. It's like when you quit, that's the only time that you fail. That's because that's inevitable. You're done. But you know, I credit to him as well. Like, it'd be like someone that I understand how these boys would look to you, which is for us as well. It's important to show, like for Pac to me was to show me that someone that came from the same walk, looked like me, tattoos, same, can be somewhere that is exactly the same place I want to be. When you started this, I'm sure there was no one else. You kind of had to be that person. Now there's people like, I want to do that. I want to run a gym. I want to impact these kids' life. And I think it's amazing the work that you're doing with Confit Pathways, and I think the brand alignments are just perfect together.
It just works. You know, I just don't know why this didn't happen any sooner. You know?
That's it. I think I can't remember how did we both come? Was it through me?
I think it was through you.
Yeah, I think Hammy. I think
it was through you. It's through training. See, training connects people, bro.
Yeah, we were down at VCT, I think, I kind of just, I remember seeing Hammy all the time through, you know, and because me and Hammy used to work together at the gym, and shout out Hammy, bro. And is he working there, or is he just looking pretty in the photos?
I mean, I honestly don't know. Nah, but he's good. Like, see, the beauty about having lived experience with Hammy, man, when he goes in, he just connects with the boys. Like, he can joke around with them, and you know, and the fact that he's got kids himself, you know, and he can see, you know, imagine like having kids like your age that are in juvie. It's like, fuck. Like,
it's different, It
feels like it's your kids, you know, like that could be your kids. But he connects straight away, and he's a massive asset to the organization, bro.
I think it's a credit too with your team. Like, I always see the boys posting, and I'm like, fuck, I'd love to train with him, but I wouldn't have my shirt off like that because it wouldn't fit in. But I think the lovely thing about it is the diversity of, you know, cultures and backgrounds, and, you know, almost can relate to any kid that wherever you go. Whether any youth program, there's someone that's going to look to Hammy, look to yourself. And was that like by design, or was it just you guys came like that? And it's because the team you have now is very diverse. It's quite like us here. So
so we wanted to be diverse. We're all about diversity, equity, inclusion as well, right? We're inclusive of everyone. The reason why I wanted to make this so diverse, because it sets a message from what's happened inside jail, right? So when we're inside jail, you know for a fact that prison politics, you stick with your own kind. You stick with your own nationality, right? I remember when I went in, you know, I'm from Asian background, Asians, and you know how Asians and Polynesians stick together, and you got the Middle Easterns, and then you've got like the indigenous, and then you've got everyone else, you know. And I remember there were times when different nationalities were warring against each other, and it was fucking toxic, right? And everyone has their own little corner, right? And there was the only time that we used to all mix was when we used to train in the yard.
That's so true, man.
Like, there's only one pull-up bar, one pull-up bar, one dip bar, and everyone's there just training together, right? So I was like...
They're even spotting you, bro.
And I was like, fuck, we're in the middle of a war, like a racial war, but all the boys are training together. I was like, this is crazy. This is the power of fitness, man. And that's why I was like, I want to represent that, right? It's not... Fitness brings everyone from all different backgrounds together. Doesn't matter if
it's taking you across the world too, obviously.
Exactly, man. There's so powerful. It doesn't matter if you just come out of prison, or you're 7th generation public housing, or you're some fucking CEO of a Fortune 500 company, right? When we train, we're all equal. And that's what we're representing, bro. Yeah,
that's lovely, man. So I guess in the long run, bro, what's the long-term plan for Confit? How do you see this, you know, moving forward? Let's say 5 to plus years from now. What's the longevity, the legacy that you want to leave?
So the biggest thing what we want to do is create opportunities and pathways for not just young people, but adults coming out of the justice system, right? And obviously what we do is fitness, and we want to help them to leverage our fitness to get to where they want to go, right? Whether it's to remain as a trainer, or to leverage our fitness to go somewhere else or to do something else. So this is what we're doing. So we've now got a partnership with TAFE Australia, providing Cert 3, Cert 4 education for inmates in custody. Then we're about to open up a gym next year, and there's a pipeline. There's going to be a pipeline from for these individuals to come to our gym to start to become a part of our community, and to be able to shadow us to if they want to become fitness professionals, right? Then we've got a partnership with Fitness Playground Academy. They've just rebranded to One Playground, right? And they provide upskilling for these individuals. And we've now got another partnership with AusActive, which is the governing body of the fitness industry, for them to be able to open up doors for other gyms and other franchises to open up employment opportunities for these individuals. So what we're doing now is education inside custody, right? Providing a community for these guys through Confit, through the gym, then upskilling, and then employment opportunities, right, through the fitness industry. And then the biggest part is wraparound support through Confit. And
it's a full top to bottom,
we are able to scale impact like this. This is a system, a model that we can use in every other states and territories around Australia, maybe even around the world. And to have a partnership with GEEDUP, who are so well known in society, in Australian society, right? As this subcultural brand, right? And there's so many value alignments. It makes more sense for us to partner, especially when we're about to open the gym and you guys are about to drop going down the athletic and sporting apparel. What a beautiful time to connect. And there's so many things that we can work together in creating that social impact through fitness, through clothing, through culture and community in Australia.
Yeah, we'll definitely be down there. Obviously, we'd love to jump in. And like you said, I think fitness brings us all together, in a way. And it's kind of just good to have that base that we'll all be able to work out of. And so we love what you're doing, man. And, thanks for your time today. Where can people, if people want to give or, help you in any way, where can they find you on your socials?
Yeah, you can find us on Confit Pathways on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll leave the handles in.
Or Confit Oz. That's the social enterprise. And you can find us on our website, confitpathways.org, or confitfitness.com.au.
All right, bro.
But keep an eye out, guys, because we've got some big things coming, with the gym. I'll give you a quick rundown what we're going to do with it. We're actually getting actual prison gates installed at the front of our gym. And our motto is train to be free.
Yeah.
So it's like, leave your worldly prisons behind, come to prison and train to be free.
That's it, bro. Fuck, that's lovely. He's going to have the wire up there?
Like, we're going to design it, but not with the wire, bro. We're going to make it look like a prison, but we're going to make it look
doors to buzz.
Yeah, man. We'll love to have, GEEDUP definitely do a lot of shoots in there, and we'd love to have the GEEDUP community come down and train with us as well.
We'll be there, bro. Once again, man, we love what you're doing with your, with the boys and Confit Pathways. I appreciate your time again, bro. Thanks, Joe.
Get me a GEEDUP merch, man.
Cheers, brother.